What's up? I'm Coach Dan Blewett, and in today's video, we're going to talk about 5 recruiting tips that if you're a baseball player and you want to play college baseball, these recruiting tips are going to be huge in helping you get to that next level. If you're new here, I'm Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro pitcher. I also used to own a baseball and softball academy where we had our own teams. And I was constantly advising parents as they had their questions, should we spend money on this on recruiting? Should we spend money on this for recruiting? When should we start the recruiting process? Should we go to these showcases? Should we go to these tryout camps? All these different things. So let's break down some of my biggest recruiting tips, 5 of them, that are going to help you on your college baseball recruiting journey. So before we get going, this video is sponsored by NFHS Network, which is a streaming service for high school sports. NFHS Network streams on all your different devices. You can watch live or on demand. So if you miss a game, you can easily catch up the way you want to catch up on your phone, on your laptop, or even with your whole family watching it live on the big screen. So check them out below. You can use my code DAN50 to save 50% off your first month of NFHS Network. All right, so my first recruiting tip for baseball players is save money until you're physically impressive. And what this means is, look, what you don't want to do is be throwing tons of money at recruiting things, whether it's showcases, whether it's, videos or any of these things that cost money. Don't throw money at them when the result is going to be some scout or coach seeing your kid and saying, yeah, nice player. Let's see what he looks like in a year. Save the money when your kid isn't really close to looking like a college baseball player. And this is junior year for most kids. That's when they hit that big growth spurt. They go from 140 pounds to 165 pounds. And now they start to fill out. And now when a college coach comes to watch them play, they see more of a man than they do a little boy. And that's really important because they have to project, how's this kid gonna look when he arrives on campus as a freshman? And what can we then get out of him in the next 4 years? So don't throw money at your kids when they're too young. And usually for almost everyone, that's 13, 14, 15, and often 16U as well. My second recruiting tip for baseball players is to understand the timeline of the recruiting process. And I'm not going to go into huge detail on this. So here's the big thing. Junior colleges and Division IIIs, they're not going to sign players and commit them until senior year. And think about this. This is because junior college and D3 baseball is typically the lowest level of college baseball. Now understand, that's a great fit for a lot of players, and it's still really good baseball, and it's an admirable goal to play any type of college baseball. So I'm not hating in any way on junior college or D3. But understand that those are the lowest levels, so you're going to hold out the longest and look for offers from higher level schools like D2s and D1s. And so that's why D3s and JUCOs are typically going to sign players at their senior year. So you don't need to worry about committing to a junior college or D3 until pretty much that senior year. So you'll be able to wait through other offers in your freshman, sophomore, junior year. But understand that you probably won't get any offers from most players until your junior year at the earliest. There's also been rule changes in 2023 that they cannot verbally commit players anymore until their junior year. And definitely Google this and check out the exact specifics. This means that you don't have to spend as much money on the recruiting trail knowing that you cannot possibly commit to a college before your junior year. So keep that in mind. Spend more of your money on development and don't worry as much about what's happening on the recruiting trail for your freshman and sophomore years. And then lastly, understand that the best players are going to get heavily flooded with offers early because that's when the D1s are going to try to grab them, hoping they continue to improve. And then after them, the D2s are going to try to grab a potential kid who is going to grow into a D1 prospect. And if they can get him early by getting a really good offer in, maybe they get that kid to come to a D2 school, even though he would have blossomed into a really legit D1 player. So understand some of this timeline, and that if you're not in the premium category early, where you're going to get a D1 offer really, really young, and then maybe not even a D2 early offer at your junior year, then just understand there's going to be a flurry of offers your late junior or senior year when you really start to fill out and show who you finally are, more as like a finished product toward the end of your high school career. My third recruiting tip is take video and update it every 6 months. There are so many families who are willing to throw $300, $500 at showcase camps, but yet they're not willing to spend a little bit of time and effort learning to edit videos just on a basic free video editing software, or to buy their own camera that you could get secondhand, you could get used for $200 or $300, that you could take really amazing recruiting video with a optical zoom. Having an optical zoom lens is so much better than having a phone zoom lens, because phone zooms are digital and they won't reach out to shortstop. They won't reach out into the outfield very well. So as a parent, to get really good recruiting video of your kid, a $200 investment in a real camera that can, again, have an optical zoom lens that will get farther out onto the field is going to give you crisper, clearer video showing what your kid can actually do in games. And that's going to make such a big difference sending these out. So if you spend a little money earlier on equipment and a little bit of know-how editing videos well, you can make excellent recruiting videos for the rest of their college or their high school career. And then you can resell that secondhand camera if you don't want it anymore. And basically you just almost sort of rented it for a couple years. I highly recommend doing this. But don't feel like you have to always just pay for all these other services. There's a lot of DIY stuff, including making great recruiting videos, that will really get you a long way and have a very high value for your dollar. Recruiting tip number 4 for baseball players: emailing colleges. So let me quickly go over some of the basics here. Number 1, parents, you can help your kids gather the info and gather the data that they, what colleges are we going to go after? Where can we find the college coach's email? It's really, really easy. You just go on the school's web page, go to student athlete questionnaire, or go to the baseball page, and then you'll be able to find their form that they want you to fill out, which is the questionnaire. And then you'll usually very easily be able to find the coach's email address when you go to the coaches under the roster. Very, very simple. Once you've got the emails and you as a family have identified the schools that your son is interested in, then you need to send the emails out to these coaches and include the recruiting video you've made. Now, here's the thing. Your son needs to craft these emails. They need to come from him. Parents, you should never email college coaches on your kid's behalf, because they're expecting that they're going to have adults coming to college, that your son is going to be able to vouch for himself, talk to the coach about playing time, and be a grown man and not continue to be a little boy who their parents are doing everything for them. So this is a huge point where you need to help your kid a little bit with it, but say, this is for you to do. Email the college coaches. If you really say that you want to be a college baseball player, then you need to do this. Then this is part of that process in getting you in the door. And if they don't want to send the emails, then maybe they just don't want it bad enough. And that's something to come to terms with as well. You can't shove them to the finish line as a parent. If they don't want it bad enough to send emails to college coaches, then they just might not want to be a college baseball player. So what do you put in these emails? Very, very simple. Number 1, fill out the recruiting questionnaire first, and that will show you everything they need to know from you. But you should also put that same information in the emails that you're sending directly to these schools, along with a video link to the recruiting video that you've made, whether it's hosted on YouTube. You can make it unlisted if you don't know what that is. Unlisted just means it's not in search engine results, but if you send someone the link, they'll be able to watch that video. Send them the video, send them all the academic info on their summer team coaches, info on their high school coaches, like how to contact them, what school they go to, all that stuff. And then your kid should also craft a message. Like, why do they want to go to that school? What do they admire about that school? Why do they think they could play at that level? And what do they want to get out of their 4 years of baseball there, or their 2 years of baseball there? All of this is free. It just takes some time and effort, but it's very, very worth it, saying, hey, I want to go to your school. I want to play baseball for you. Here's who I am. I want you to see me. And that's a really powerful tool that's free on the college baseball recruiting trail. So before we get to our last recruiting tip here, again, I want to thank my sponsor, NFHS Network. When I was a young ball player, my parents made every effort they could to make it to every game they could, but often they still couldn't be there because my brother and my sister had other activities. So if you're a busy sports parent, definitely check out NFHS Network. You can stream live, you can catch up on demand, and never miss your kids' games. All right, my 5th college baseball recruiting tip is go to local colleges' camps. These are typically lower cost than like the big combine camps run by like the recruiting services. And many of those are very good, don't get me wrong, but they're usually more expensive and they have sort of a slightly different purpose. But if you go to your local school, like I live here in Washington, D.C., you could go to Georgetown's baseball camp. You could go to University of Maryland's baseball camp. You go to George Mason's baseball camp. There's also Division III schools like Catholic University. You could go to their camp. There's lots and lots of different schools, and I would suggest going to different divisions. So go to a Division III camp, go to Division II camp, go to a junior college camp, go to a D1 camp. And what you're going to find is that they're lower cost relative to the bigger showcases, like I mentioned. You'll also find that you'll get more attention talking to the coaches, talking to the players who are going to help run these camps, and you'll also get a very good sense of what the bigger pool of players is in the local area and what other kids who want to potentially play in college look like. It's a very big wake-up call for lots of young athletes who think they're really, really good in their little small pond, and then they go to one of these camps, especially the bigger schools, and they're like, wow, there's a lot of kids my same age who are way bigger and stronger than me, or who throw way harder than me, or wow, I'm a sophomore and I saw some of these seniors and juniors at these college camps doing really amazing things. I really need to work harder and pick things up. There's a lot of really great lessons that you'll learn from going and starting to compare yourself to that larger school of fish. So I highly recommend you do some of those camps. Don't break the bank. Don't break your budget doing that, especially when it's freshman year, sophomore year, when the recruiting trail's really not going to be on you yet. But it's a really good tool to say, how good are we? You know, can we sort of self-evaluate looking around and see how we stack up compared to other players? That's really powerful, and it might have a really positive effect on your kids' work ethic and their perspective on their place within the game. So as we wrap up, I just want you to remember that there's a lot of marketing out there, and you'll hear a lot of gossip from the parents in the stands who say, you have to do this or your kid will fall behind forever. They have to do this or they'll never be good enough. If you don't do this, they'll never get recruited. Most of that stuff is BS. Everyone's on a different timeline. Your kid is going to develop at a different rate, so be real introspective and look at your kid. If your kid is still really small and they haven't grown yet, or they're not filled out, maybe they're a beanpole and they're not very muscular and they don't have the velocity or the bat speed yet, it's not time to do recruiting stuff for them. It's not time to waste money. So put that money away and wait till they're older and then spend it when it's really going to have a big impact. But a lot of parents blow a lot of their budget early when their kids just have no chance of getting recruited from those efforts. They're spending $300-$500 or more and in their freshman year when these kids are 120 pounds and it does not move the needle one amount. They just threw that money away. And if you don't know what to spend the money on now and you're not sure how good your kid is, spend the money on development. Get them lessons, get them strength training, get them in front of people who can make them better. When you spend money on development, it's gonna pay you back in the long term. All right, so thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the description below, and I'll see you here in the next video.